The race. My wife and I have been together 12 years today, married for almost 11. She cheated on me a year after getting married. She would not admit it. First the whole they are just friends, then it was that they only kissed. Then finally I got the entire story. We have 4 kids, 2 from her previous marriage that I adopted, and we have twin boys that were born in 2014. I was snipped or fixed in December 2014. She then became pregnant in the spring of 2016 and tried to convince me that the vasectomy did not work. I finally got to the point where I did not believe her and told her that I was going to have a paternity test done and that I would leave her that very day if it wasn't mine. She then admitted that it wasn't mine, to which I gave her 3 choices. Leave me and have the baby on her own, have the baby and make the real father be a father to the child, or abort the baby and stay with me. This may seem cold, but there was no way I could look at that child every single day and not think of her cheating on me. She chose the last option and opted for the abortion. We have had a rocky relationship for the past 6 years, mainly because she is unstable and that I was never able to forgive her for the affairs, as I used them as a furnace to store my hurt, anger, and would rear its ugly head when she would make me mad or when she would do something to make me think she was cheating again. Fast forward to a few months ago, I found out that she was texting someone in this game that she plays online that has a texting option. She said that she only did it because she wanted a fun time and that was just her form of entertainment. She said that she only talked to them online and they knew nothing about her and she never saw or talked to them on the phone. Fast forward to a month ago and I found numerous phone calls to and from the same phone number that would last an hour or even longer. She even spent 3.5 hours on the phone with this person one night when I was camping with my scouts. When I confronted her on this, she said she was sorry but that it had stopped. We had a big blowout and she started calling this person again, if they were not seeing each other then. They are now, as she disappears for hours and has a lock on her phone but texts all the time through this game. She tells me that I always accuse her of cheating and that I am just a jealous freak. She says that she does not love me and hasn't loved me for many years and that she has emotionally checked out. We went to AMC but she stopped going as she told the counselor that she doesn't want to be there. She just told me yesterday that she wants a divorce. I told her to give it 30 days, to just live with one another so we can raise our children together. She states that she does not believe that I am capable of this. But my kids are my life. I am trying the 180 approach, but am I just being stupid? Living with me and sleeping with this other man, while I am home covering her tracks with the kids. I know that I must appear weak and not worthy in her eyes now. I desperately want to save my marriage, but at what cost? I used to get mad and pissed off, but now I am just numb to the whole thing. I have not run away nor hid. I have been reading the posts, as that is why we post here. Correct. Some of the posts are very encouraging and informative. Some of them I can see bitterness from what they have been through themselves. As far as the twins go, they are mine. They are the spitting image of me and have a rare blood type of a negative. Don't think for a minute that I didn't question if they were going to be mine before and even when they were born, but they are definitely mine. I do know what needs to happen. I myself come from a broken home from childhood and was devastated. My brother and I turned out quite different, as I am a very successful mortgage banker that makes a very good living. And he is a lowlife that never takes any responsibility for his actions. I promised myself when I was younger that I would always be there for my children and do whatever it takes to make sure that they are happy. I didn't expect it to come to this. The first affair in 2012, I know that I should have seen the writing on the wall. But we all make mistakes, correct? Then the one in 2016, I had convinced myself that it would be the last because she was very apologetic. Showed tons of remorse. And my twins were only a year old that I was very much in love with being a daddy. I adopted her older kids back in September 2019, and that is when things really started going downhill. Looking back on it, that is when she started checking out and not really trying as hard because I was on the hook now for all 4 kids. I hate to think this way, but it is kind of a reality check. What is very sad about this whole thing is that we had it made. 6-figure income, a great home, vehicles, ATVs, lots of vacations. She is a stay-at-home mom that homeschooled all 4 of our kids. I provided a very good living for us, and none of that matters now. I do know that it is not going to work with us. It is time to plan an exit strategy. I am not going to jump into anything as I am through letting my emotions control me. I know it's not healthy for me nor my children. It is very hard to just let go though. Finding someone else is not a problem. I take decent care of myself. I am successful, outgoing, and the type of guy that people like to be around. I have just failed, and it's very hard to come to grips with that fact. I know that I deserve better, and I am sure that I will feel better about everything once I tell her that I am done. It's the kids that I am worried about. I saw what she did to her ex before me, and I am afraid to see how she will use the kids against me. I installed a GPS tracker on her car to have proof, like I needed it. It is very hard to understand or comprehend how just a few short weeks ago she is telling me that she loves me and only me. That there couldn't possibly be another man. Now here I am being the one who is left out looking in. I woke up this morning thinking to myself, man, I just had an awful dream. Then I realized it's reality. It's only been a ride from the start that was destined to end. I know that I deserve better, and I am sure that I will feel better about everything once I tell her that I am done. It's the kids that I am worried about. I saw what she did to her ex before me, and I am afraid to see how she will use the kids against me. I installed a GPS tracker on her car to have proof, like I needed it. It is very hard to understand or comprehend how just a few short weeks ago she is telling me that she loves me and only me. That there couldn't possibly be another man. Now here I am being the one who is left out looking in. I woke up this morning thinking to myself, man, I just had an awful dream. Then I realized it's reality. It's only been a ride from the start that was destined to end. It really sucks when your wife, whom for 12 years would always come and give you a kiss goodbye, or be upset if you didn't give her one, and always said I love you, all of the sudden that is all gone. She doesn't even look at me anymore when I am home, nor says a word when she leaves. For those of you that do not know my story, I have been with my wife for 12 years and married for almost 11. She has had 2 affairs in the past that I thought was behind us. And now she is very deep in the third, to the point where she really wants to be with this man. I know that I deserve better for my 4 children and myself. I know that I have to tell her that she has to leave and I want a divorce. But man, is it tough when you have it made. We don't have money problems. We have vehicles, ATVs, camper, take a ton of vacations, and she is a stay-at-home mom that homeschools our 4 kids. I am a mortgage banker that makes great money. It hasn't been a walk in the park since the first 2 affairs, but this one is truly killing the marriage. I wish that there was a magic spell that could make it all better. Or that one of these days I would wake up thinking that I just had a bad dream and it was true. Reality says that's not true, and I am only lying to myself for even letting that thought enter my mind. We went camping over Easter and my wife kept texting and texting this guy. I finally came up to her and asked her to please stop as we are on a family camping trip with friends that are like family. She replied that it was none of my business who she was texting and that I need to leave her alone because I always think she is cheating. She gave me her phone and smiled. Of course it has a password on it that she would not give me. So I got to the point where I said okay and smashed the phone, which turned into a huge argument. Up until now she always said that divorce is never an option. But now she is very delusional that this is her hero that is saving her from her awful life of doing whatever she wants when she wants to. I even adopted her 2 kids from her previous marriage a few years ago. Sometime this weekend I have to sit her down and tell her that I am not a bad husband nor father. As a matter of fact, I was very good to her. Even though she can't see it because she is in a fog and has to make me out to be a terrible person. But I know about the affair and that I think divorce is the right option at this point. The only way that I could ever see myself with her again is with a lot of counseling and for her to not ever contact this person again. We had it made. Damn, reality sucks. I am sure that you all know my story by now. Wife cheated twice in me in 12 years. Got pregnant by another man in 2016. She is cheating now, even though she will not admit it. I caught her texting. Then 25 hours worth of phone calls in 1 month. Then she put a security code on her phone and texts him through this game called Words with Friends because you cannot trace it. I am very successful in business and we have a lot of money and assets. I went ahead and switched most of the liquid into just my name because she is not thinking clearly. In the affair fog right now. She is not even being a good mother right now, and I never would have ever dreamed of saying that before to our 4 children. She is a stay-at-home mom that homeschools our 4 kids, goes out to lunch whenever she wants. Gets manicures all the time, etc. And now she is in an affair and she just doesn't give a rat you know what about anything else. So, after she discovers that I have moved this money, she says that we need a divorce. I tell her to wait 30 days because I really need to gather my thoughts and not be a thermometer, but rather a thermostat. I took a week and then told her that she is right, that divorce is the logical decision. I then ask her when she is moving out. She is stunned, but goes out and rents a place and tells me that we need some time apart to work on things. Later that same day, she is texting this person and is not happy. She disappears for an hour and a half saying that she has to go to the pharmacy. Yeah, right. When she returns, we put our 3 younger children to bed and then she looks at me and says that we don't need to work on things, but that we need a divorce. She gets pissed when I tell her that I will give her the divorce, but she needs to stop listening to the guy on the other end of the text. She states that there is no guy, I just say right. I again agree with her. This lady does not take a crap without careful planning at first. She is a control freak to the utmost value. This comes into play because I asked her what was her plan. She states, I don't know. I find this very confusing and not her at all. We talk it over and she just says that she needs to be away from me. That was last night and today she is gone and took my 4 kids. I am going to see them tomorrow, but man is it tough not to have them around. I did talk with her and told her that if she would agree to go that I would pay for counseling out of my own pocket because it may not save my sham of a marriage, but it would hopefully make her see how she is treating our children and help them out. She says that she didn't know if she would go, I then asked if she would at least try to open up. She responded that she didn't think she could. I really wish that she would get some help. To this day I still love her, but I do not believe that we can stay together after everything she has put me through. Multiple times. She says that I always accuse her of cheating, and the one thing that I do regret is not getting professional help from the 2016 affair because I really needed it. I can sit here and bash on her all night, but the bottom line is that I am done being a doormat. Logistics about the kids and the divorce is the only thing that I can possibly talk to her about now. The reason that I moved the money is that she is not thinking clearly at all. I was afraid he would talk her into taking some or all of it before the separation and divorce, and then it would be gone. I am splitting it with her evenly, but I just had to be careful, you know. Update, as you all know, she left yesterday. I took my 13-year-old daughter out on a daddy-daughter date, as I like to do that once a month so she knows how a young lady is to be treated when she starts dating. When I brought her to her mom's new home last night, there were 5 cars there. She was having a party. Now, since my wife is a stay-at-home mom right now and homeschools all 4 of our kids, my kids tell me that she did a really quick school session today. Gave my 16-year-old son money to bring the other 3 out to lunch while she ran errands. I am really getting the feeling that my wife is having an affair with a married man. My wife was fine being married to me while seeing and sleeping with this guy for a few months. Now that she is out on her own, she still feels the need to sneak. All of this while she could very easily have waited a few hours until the kids were over here with me for the night. Makes me think that she cannot see him tonight for one reason or another. Not really trying to get into her head, but man, she is really screwed up lately. She used to be the absolute without a doubt best mother that I could ever imagine. Now she is moody to the kids, does not do enough with them school-wise, nor wants to really spend time with them when there are other options. This is just beyond mind-boggling. Someone please wakes me. I just hope that she doesn't wake up before the divorce can be finalized and I can protect my house. I know there is no turning back now. One last thing, she texts me 29 times today for one reason or another. Nothing earth-shattering that couldn't have waited, like she texted me to make sure that my kids were here. When she has always texted my 16-year-old son to see when he has made it to his destination. I always replied with very short answers, like K or yup. What is she doing? Trying to keep me sucked in. I just cannot get away from her. She texts me for random reasons. Sends emails that say stuff like, will you pay the bill for my car insurance until we are divorced and take it out of what you are giving me monthly? She just won't let go even though she has moved out and is telling the kids that mommy and daddy will not be together anymore. I gave her divorce papers today. Then I took my kids to a friend's birthday party. And guess who showed up? She said she was only staying for a few minutes but ended up being 2.5 hours. I would catch her looking at me. I would just turn away. She smiled at me a few times. Then when she dropped my son back at my house, she looked deep at me. I turned away because I don't want to give her the wrong idea. I love the woman I married so very much. But what she has become is disturbing to say the least. Cheating, lying, and disrespectful are just to name a few. I hope that I can stay strong and follow through with the divorce because I deserve better. First off, when the wife got pregnant back in 2016, she aborted it. My wife moved out on Monday to be free and still will not admit the affair that she is in. We have agreed, however, to be very amicable towards one another for the kids. Now I am very confused by her actions. I am trying not to get into her head, but I can't help myself. I know what I must do, but she is throwing me all kinds of curveballs and I am not sure why. She has sent me more texts this week than the past 3 months combined, I think. Then my boys had a Cub Scout pack meeting on Thursday night. She texts me and asked me if it was okay if she went. I said I didn't care at all. She shows up and makes a point to come up to me twice. First to tell me about some stupid movie she rented for the kids. Then to tell me she was leaving. Now yesterday, she dropped the kids off at my house as she said that they wanted to come over early. When she dropped them off, I gave her a preliminary divorce agreement that I had drawn up on the family law website, as we have agreed to try to do this without attorneys. But she won't even acknowledge them. Some good friends of ours were having a birthday party for 2 of their boys. I had the kids so I took them. She had made a comment earlier in the day that she was going to stop by. While on my way there she texts me asking me if I want her to pick up an iced tea from McDonald's. Then she gets to the party and sits down right next to me. Mind you, she is not wearing her wedding ring. I then move across the table. I catch her a few times looking at me. Once she was smiling at me. So, she stays for the entire party. One of my kids got a bloody lip and he wanted mom like every little boy does when they get hurt. So mom says she will take him out for ice cream and then drop him off at my house. When she drops him off, she then says goodbye to the boys. Gives them a hug and says see you later to me. I just turn around and walk towards the door. Out of the corner of my eye I can see her looking at me. I turn around and she smiles. I then just give a half-assed smile back and go inside as she drives off. I am very curious to say the least if she is just happy that she is free and wants to be my friend. or is she slowly starting to regret the decisions that she made? I guess either way it doesn't matter, as I can't submit myself to that pain anymore. My wife is in an affair and said she wanted a divorce, then decided that we needed time apart to work on things. Later that same day she said that the time apart was to work on the divorce, so I forced her hand and said that we should get started on it right away and not waste any more time. She moved out on Monday of this week. I have been doing the 180 and let her go systems. Yesterday she texted me 29 times about various things that honestly, most of it was not all that important. I always answered very direct and with short answers to the point. We are ironing out details of visitation. We had it worked where we would get the kids every other night during the week and then alternate weekends. I sent her an email last night stating that I thought it would be best if we did 2 nights here consecutive and 2 nights there consecutive and then every other weekend. She sent a reply back stating that's a good idea. Then I told her in texting that I was going down today to get the divorce paperwork going, and she did not respond and instead wrote something else about some vitamins that she needed. I have basically gone dark on her on anything other than the children and details of the separation, divorce, not to try to get into her head. But is she thinking, holy crap, he is really going to do this? Or is she just not wanting to talk about anything to do with her and I? It's not like I stated anything about her and I getting back together or trying to work on things. I only stated that I was going to get the paperwork to get it started. Being strong is a very healthy thing. I just have to stick with it. I have been doing the 180 now for only a few days as my wife moved out on Monday and is frequently finding reasons to contact me via text. I am limiting the responses and taking my time when getting to them. My question is that I just went over and picked up my kids from her. She wasn't wearing her wedding ring. Should I take mine off also? We just split up on Monday and told the kids it was nothing more than time to work on things, even though she later that same day said that it was only to work on the divorce. She is way deep in an affair fog right now. I just don't want to do anything that will hurt the children. Story 2. 4 years ago, my husband started acting different. I worried he was having an affair with a coworker, but he kept denying anything. I spent 2 years worrying something was going on, then another 2 years wondering what happened. After the first 2 years he had a fallout with this coworker. He became depressed, but really wouldn't tell me what was wrong. Time passed and he slowly became his old self again, and our marriage was going great and he was more involved with our girls. But I've had a lot of doubt over these years and it finally came to a boiling point for me. I couldn't take it anymore. See, right around the time he had the fallout with this coworker I discovered I was HPV positive. Yup, we had been married 13 years at that point, and you can add at least 2 to 3 more years on top of that of dating. He has always denied any physical contact with anyone for years now. Very adamant and defensive about it. Well, about a month ago I laid it all out to him. I was finally determined to get some answers because I began to feel like I couldn't live anymore with this cloud hanging over us. It took a lot of work on my part, but he has finally admitted he had an emotional affair with this coworker. He still denies any physical contact with her despite the HPV, which is now cleared for me. He was smitten with this girl, yup, a full 10 years younger than me, for at least a year before they became friends. He says it was a slow process, but his friendship grew with her over time and he now realizes it had crossed the line. He won't say the word love to me, but he doesn't argue it when I say it. He claims it was different than his love for me, but realizes it was at a point it could have turned. The sad part is, she was the one that broke it off. He would have kept on if she hadn't ended it. This really hurts. The reasons for this friendship ending are vague. He says it was due to a work-related issue, but I fear it was because he confronted her about the HPV. Also, this coworker will not look or talk to me. That right there tells me something was wrong. I kept on him about having something physical with her or someone else cause of the HPV, and finally he broke down and said 8 years ago he French kissed a girl in a club on a business trip. He claims it weighed on him for years and he remembers stepping away from the kiss, excusing himself and getting a taxi, telling himself whatever you do don't let her in the taxi with you. He was very drunk and says it was exciting to have this young girl hit on him. His guilt is he didn't stop the kiss, but after it ended, he felt terrible. I told him this doesn't help my trust issues with him, that he kept it a secret for so long. He has always denied anything. He seems to think because it was only French kissing and not bonding that it doesn't count as cheating. I always asked to have you cheated on me and he'd always say no. He acts like I should thank him for controlling himself enough to end it at the kiss. It makes me so sad cause our girls were babies then. We had even had a great family vacation that same week. At this point, he has moved on from these mistakes. He seems to think I should just forget about it and move on myself. He says things are great now, so let's enjoy the present and look forward to the future. He keeps on and on about how it was all long ago. Is 2 years with his coworker really that long ago? He says he learned from the kiss at the club and has since not put himself in a situation where that could happen again, and as for the friendship, he says he can look back and see it wasn't appropriate, and now says he understands boundaries better. My issues are I'm grieving what I thought was a good marriage and I've lost all trust in him. He was my best friend and I thought I knew him. Now my marriage seems like a big lie. I'm going to a counselor, but she seems to be concentrating on I'm obsessing over the past. I think she's headed toward putting me on meds, but I'm really against that. Isn't what I'm going through normal? I feel insecure, needy, paranoid, mad and depressed. Plus, a lot of panic attacks when I start thinking about what may have happened. At this point, I don't think he is coming clean about the HPV. He has his story pretty tight at this point. So, can I forgive the kiss and friendship for the sake of our girls? But how do I move on with this HPV cloud hanging over me? I'm in no position to leave and I feel like I've invested so much in this marriage. I believe he has truly moved on and he'll agree neither were worth hurting our marriage. He is no longer friends with his coworker and says she isn't who he thought she was. Not a very good person. He knows he was used. He did a lot of stuff for her. He seems to be trying. But then he gets really mad and defensive if the HPV thing is brought up. I don't trust him or believe him. As much as the kiss and friendship hurts, I think adding a physical affair to the mix will be the death blow for me. Maybe he's too scared to admit it. I have grasped all straws. The test was a false positive. The virus had been dormant and reactivated cause I was stressed. I will admit I wasn't that good of a girl in college, or he got it from French kissing and passed it on to me. I have seen reports they now think it can be passed through deep French kissing. But I'm no idiot. The timing is right onto the emotional affair. How can I accept I'll never get answers and move on with this marriage? He keeps saying he has nothing else to give me. All is now out. I do believe he loves me and is sorry he hurt me. But please someone tell me how do I move on with questions still being out there. We need to go to marriage counseling, but money is extremely tight. He has recently changed locations. I think some of it has to do with being away from that coworker for me, and his income is not very dependable right now. My counselor is through my health insurance, so that we can swing. The thought of starting over is overwhelming. I have been with him half of my life, really all of my adult life as I married him very young. I see no end to the hurt and lack of trust. 10 months in from discovering a drunken good time he got from a stranger that happened 9 years ago on a business trip. I still question a relationship he had with a coworker from 4 years ago. He keeps denying, but I question the extent of the emotional aspect of it and if it was a PIA he just will not budge. 10 months into this crap. At one point I tested positive for HPV so nothing adds up. He's borderline suicidal. It's gotten to the point I can't say anything to him and my questions have gotten me nowhere. I have received no closure. If I pretend I'm okay he's flowers, holding hands, hugs and kisses, helping with kids and dinner. I'm sure he knows I'm hurting even when I pretend but seems to become almost more compassionate when I just try. If I'm upset, he becomes emotionally unstable, mean and suicidal. At this point people are saying to me you already have enough to know he wasn't faithful. He's clearly upset as to what he has done to his family and I need to accept I will never know everything and try to forgive him. Yet how do you forgive someone if you really don't know what you're forgiving? If you still doubt them so badly, can you really even attempt if you're still so full of doubts? Can you without really knowing? And do you ever really even know? How do you decide when you finally have the truth or are at peace with what you do know? Another issue I have is I still can't get rid of the mind movies and I feel like 9 years of my life have been lost. Memories of family vacations just totaled. 10 months in and still feel destroyed. He knows I'm hurt. This I do believe. It's been hell here. We're both in our own worlds of pain. Some things show remorse, other things do not. He has done the GPS thing for me, went to counseling, has read books, but he explodes. His work situation is different now. He doesn't travel anymore. He does seem more family-centered than before. I think this is an issue of dealing with poor past behavior that he now doesn't want to face. Our insurance is pathetic. We tried MC at the start. It didn't seem to get us anywhere and we quickly spent more money than we had. Insurance wouldn't cover a penny. She had the attitude I knew enough and if we were going to stay together, I needed to move forward. This didn't help me get the full truth I believe and sabotaged me from the start. We then both went to IC. We have to use our insurance as counselors for this. Appointments were hard to come by, not frequent enough. He got someone that was totally not knowledgeable about infidelity. Again this sabotaged me. I get the impression I was made out to be the bad guy because I wouldn't let it go. I got a counselor that after a few sessions told me I had enough info and I needed to pray to God for the ability to forgive. She even told me she couldn't help me no more. Meanwhile he is seeing a doctor for antidepressants, but they only ask him medical type questions. He has been through a couple different meds, but he is still borderline suicidal. I finally venture out and try another counselor within the insurance company. Despite the drive, I love her, but her next opening was 3 months later. I'm going back to her in a couple weeks and she has asked me to bring him along. It's been a summer waiting to get back and to see her. Where am I 10 months out from discovery? I'm still hurt, humiliated, doubtful, feel my life has been wasted, that it was all lies. I could say if I try he's quite a loving husband to be around, but that's only if I'm trying. He definitely plays off my moods. Personally, it was a deal breaker to me, but I don't feel I'm in a position to break the deal. I've been a somm for years, been looking for a job since January. I think I need to go back to school, but money is tight. I've been with him over 20 years. How do you walk away from that? I hate thinking about disrupting our kids' lives. I don't know, I just can't decide what to do. 10 months of limbo. And do you really ever get away from them? I mean, I still have to see him because we're connected by our children. It's not like I can pack and move into a small apartment somewhere far away and never look back. I do have to say I have a general feeling of being lost yet trapped. I certainly don't think of him the same way. 17 years married, 20 years together. Half was lies. He failed the poly, still won't come completely clean. He moved out for a couple weeks, it didn't go well. I still saw him constantly because of the kids. Made me realize I'm stuck with him regardless of if we divorce or not. And I'll never know the real story if we divorce or not. I feel like my life was wasted on trusting this cheater. Now I feel stuck and see no happiness ahead. I made so many mistakes, the biggest being a stay-at-home mom all these years, and now have nothing to show for it. If I leave, I'm financially screwed and I'll have to uproot my kids. I just wonder, if once you're cheated on like this, do you ever really have happiness again? He keeps on and on. Quit focusing on the past, let's move forward together. Easy for him to say. Of course, he doesn't want to focus on the past cause he doesn't want to own up to any of it. And at this point would I ever believe anything he tells me? Going to counselor, still don't see a light at the end of the tunnel. I just feel once you're betrayed like this it just changes you forever, and not in a good way. How could a person do this to another, and claim they love you? Sorry, I'm having one of those days. Really, it's all my days. So, we're back with a new MC. She's very different from whom we saw last time. She actually believes in full disclosure. She made me really think the other day, though. My WS kept his on secret from me for 8 years. I still believe there is more. I originally got some info after threatening a poly. Then a year later got even more with another threat of a poly. I went ahead with the poly and he failed miserably. He leaked a little more after, but not enough to explain the failed questions. He still maintains the basic story, but now I have a few more details. The details were important parts to the puzzle. Not small. I could go into specifics here with clues I've picked up through this terrible journey. But let's just say I feel pretty confident there were other girls and transgressions, and that the ons happened more than once. So anyway, our new MC says we can't go into questions now because we first have to stop the damage we've been doing, basically all the fighting. So, when I approach him now my requests are not to be for answers, but for compassion. One thing she did say to me is that I'm in a situation where even if he was telling me the truth, when will I ever feel like there isn't more? Obviously, he's still lying. I know that from the clues, failed poly and HPV I got, but it made me think. He's lied so much, really even if he did give me everything would I feel any closure or will I still doubt for the rest of my life? I think I will, and that was a very sad realization on my part. I'm not confident I will ever trust him again, and how can I love him with no trust? It's all very sad. He's being extremely transparent right now. I've got everything in the now. He's gone through his FB with me, sent me pics of his coworkers I didn't know. We went through his phone contacts the other day. He's trying in that aspect. Why do you think he holds on to his secrets? I don't know. I'm trying to do what our MC is telling me to do, that my approach has gotten me nowhere. I just feel like I will never know love again. Okay, I get my WH works with guys who cheat and cover for each other when they go out of town. This I knew, but he played me for years saying how much he despised their behavior. Right, so there in itself is a culture that helped lead him into his poor decisions. Several of the notorious cheaters were ones he admired at work. So, I guess I shouldn't be surprised by any of this, given the poor respect marriage and family seems to be given in his workplace. We've seen several coworkers end up in divorce because of this behavior. The kicker is they finally got caught, while my WH got away with it for 8 years. Those women got the opportunity to remarry, have more children with their new husbands. I did not. I'm now into my 40 seconds. I feel I was robbed of life. In an argument he told me he would not get snipped in case we divorce. So, he would marry younger and start fresh I suppose. But I'm now too old to do such. My children are getting older. I'll just be out there alone. It made me realize family is a very disposable thing to some of these men. Struggling with the definition of family this holiday season for sure. What kills me is why coworkers would cover and lie for so long. One of the women I was referring to was being cheated on during her pregnancies. He was having ons every time he went out of town. Was having affairs at work. Everyone knew. Why did nobody come forward? Eventually, somebody did. But nobody did for me. I talked to a male friend. He said there was always the one guy who would cheat out of town and everyone just turned their back. Given what we've all been through, would you speak up now? I think everyone deserves a right to know. I was denied a better life because of the secrets and lies. Anyway, since it hit the fan, he went around telling coworkers he had a drunken ons years ago with a stranger out of town and I can't get over it. Has turned this into I'm the bad one. What none of them are getting is the years of lies and manipulation I have been put through. That he spent a year giving me a false story. I saw a text a buddy of his sent him. It said, "Are you still nailed to the cross?" This really made me mad. He knew that girl, saw her again. I feel he purposely humiliated me more, and I've now become some crazy wife that can't get over a fun thing. Has he told any of them he failed at Polly? I'm just feeling mad this morning. Morality no longer exists in this world. I can't believe I'm not dead yet. Extreme anxiety for over 2 years now since D-Day. The pain just isn't getting better for me. How much can a body take? If I haven't died from heartbreak by now. The doubts are worse, the paranoia worse, the feelings of loneliness worse. Crazy nightmares still every night about various things. Car wrecks. Airplane crashes. I do not know him. How can you be with a person for so long and not know them? I've lost too much weight, gained back too much weight, cried every day for 2 years straight, have gone gray and aged in my face. I feel like I'm just stuck. He cheated 10 years ago tomorrow. He claims his one and only time, but I know better. I was denied reality all those years. I found out 2 years ago and have had trickle truth ever since. It's like I lost all my memories. They were all fake. I'm trying so hard to separate the memories of our kids growing up apart from my twisted views now of our fake family. Then there's the future. It seemed so solid and secure before. Now it seems so uncertain. I did finally find a job after 1.5 years of trying. Nobody wanted a middle-aged stay-at-home mom. Pay is not enough to make it on my own, and since he lost his job and had to start over himself, we're still in the hole. Kids are teens now. One is in a magnet school. I could move myself and them to my parents. Do I just hang on until they're done, though? Why should they suffer because of their father's poor behavior? I just feel like a lost soul, wasted life. I think 5 years of our marriage he was fooling around on me. I suspect several different much younger girls, co-workers. He won't admit to any of my suspicions. I don't know what to believe anymore. He tried to hug me last night and it felt like a stranger hugging me, maybe even more so. I've been with him over 20 years. At this point I wonder, who in this world was I really meant to be with? Surely, this was not supposed to be my life. There can't be anything as painful as this except for losing a child or having one go missing. I imagine they also go crazy wanting to have answers, but they have the added pain of not knowing who to ask. The person that holds the answers for me is in my life. He just won't give them. What did we do to deserve this pain? The sad thing is, even if I divorce him, I still won't have any answers. Am I doomed to spending the rest of my life wondering? My best advice to everyone, just file the day you find out. I'm 3 years out and I feel no better. All that has happened is he lost his job. Everybody knows. Complete total humiliation. And people don't understand why I haven't gotten over it yet. Nobody understands your anxiety. Nobody. It makes for a very lonely life. The WS continue to lie about what happened. You'll never know the full truth. I thought I was in a bad position before to divorce. Now I realize how good I would have had it. I only dug myself into a bigger hole. You never regain trust. You'll always have anxiety and depression. Once you find out it's just over, it will never be the same. I know many are scared to make that decision, especially if you're a stay-at-home mom with kids. I was that mom. I lost tons of weight, then gained it back with much more. I've aged a decade in my face. It's changed the dynamics in the house. The kids who were old enough to understand what was going on are going to be scarred in their own relationships. I know you're scared. I know your world just ended. But staying doesn't make it better. They can try their hardest, but you'll always know they X you in the back. The sense of safety, family is gone, and they will never tell you the whole truth. Learn from my mistakes. I was too depressed and scared. I couldn't get the strength to leave. It got me nowhere. My heart goes out to all of you. How you guys like this long video today? Learned anything new from these 2 stories? Sub and bell, and I am going to start preparing for another long one.
Alright, everyone's presentations are done. Nick, the manager, said as he tried to move the discussion forward. Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something. Nick interrupted me and began to speak. There's apparently someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. His lackey, Mike, of course, agreed with Nick. I'm leaving. After leaving the meeting room, I started to shut down my computer. I noticed that an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking, there's no point in speaking up, no one will listen, I went home quietly. The next day, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. He was staring at his computer screen, his face pale. Nick! Is something wrong? Mike looked at the screen with him. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Knowing the reason for Mike's distress, I thought to myself, serves them right. My name is Adam. My mother passed away when I was in the 9th grade, and I was raised by my father. Well, you could hardly call it being raised. After my mother passed, my father changed. He drowned his sorrows in alcohol, and though he still went to work, he squandered our living expenses on horse racing. Because of that, I had to start working part-time as soon as I entered high school. Every month, I went to the convenience store with bills in hand that couldn't be auto-deducted from my father's account. Even though I endured it because I didn't want to be alone, I reached my limit in my second year of high school and dropped out. I found a live-in job at a distant inn. Thank you for everything. The day I left home, my father, still staring at the TV, spoke. Take care. That was our last conversation. Back then, 18 wasn't the age of majority, so I needed my father's permission to work, and I couldn't hide my place of employment. Yet, my father never visited me even once. I kept working just to survive, and before I knew it, I was 42. Years of hard work paid off, and I was transferred to the headquarters. I was thrilled to be recognized by the company, as I thought I'd be working in the field until retirement due to my lack of formal education. Listen up. Our work can change the future of our employees. Don't drag us down. On my first day after the transfer, Nick, dressed in an expensive suit, spoke sternly. There was a reason for this. Our inn was located in a prominent tourist destination, known so well that everyone in the state could sing its commercial jingle. At its peak, we had 5 locations within the state. But that was long ago. Due to financial difficulties and aging facilities, only the place where I had worked for many years and the original establishment remained. I was prepared to lose my job anytime, but now there was a glimmer of hope. With the rise of social media, the tourist area where the inn was located started gaining attention again. Depending on how hard the sales department, where I was transferred, worked, we could either thrive or be forced to give up this prime location to the new hotel chains continuously popping up. For Nick, who had switched careers from another industry to strengthen our sales, this was a battle he couldn't afford to lose. I understood why he had to be strict. I will do my best. Nick sneered at my enthusiastic declaration. Did you not hear what I said? I'm sorry. I thought I was listening carefully. Out of habit from years of customer service, I apologized reflexively, though I had no idea what had offended him. Someone was watching me with a smirk. In this department, there are those who are expected to excel and those who have been shoved here because they have nowhere else to go. You are the latter. It was Mike, the section chief. He's 7 years younger, at 35. But he was called to headquarters much earlier than I was and had been moving around within the headquarters ever since. I'm not jealous, but I can't accept that he's my boss. Graduating from a prestigious university, he has an unusually high pride and caused many problems as a newbie, making things very difficult for me when I was the front desk leader. When I found out Mike was transferred to the sales department a month before me, I was disheartened. Mike is right. With just a middle school diploma, there's not much you can do. Don't even think about achieving results. As if I didn't exist, Nick remarked, I'm thirsty. Mike eagerly ran to the coffee maker. It seems Mike is Nick's lackey. I regretted being happy about my transfer to headquarters, wishing I had stayed on site forever. Send a direct mail to every company on this list by the end of the day. Nick only assigned me tasks that even a new graduate could handle. What? There are over 1,000 companies. You want me to send to all of them by today? Yes, if you and your fellow misfits split the work, even those with nowhere else to go should finish by today. I glanced at the employees typing away expressionlessly. They were worn out from customer service, only thinking about leaving on time, or were women reassigned after having children, with zero motivation for work. Even Sam, a new graduate from the same university as Mike, who was supposed to be among the expected achievers, had no enthusiasm for the job, having joined the company wanting to do customer service. I don't care what they say, I plan to quit anytime, he said. Only Nick and Mike were highly motivated, making all the decisions between the two of them. I originally only wanted to work at the inn to survive and had no particular attachment to this job. I swallowed my words, thinking I had no right to reprimand them. About a month after the transfer, Nick told us with a frustrated look. To commemorate the 50th anniversary, we've decided to create a plan exclusive for one group per day. Originally, Mike and I were supposed to come up with it, but our president, Mr. Thompson, insists on hearing everyone's opinions. So, you all get a chance. As Nick explained, Mike began handing out prints. Make sure not to embarrass Nick. If your ideas are half-baked, you'll have to redo them. It seemed that they had printed his handwritten notes by Mr. Thompson, which included several questions and a section for free responses. It made sense why Nick had to seek our input, given that all responses had to be submitted to Mr. Thompson. We were given a week to think about it, and a meeting was scheduled to compile our ideas. My plan is to let guests enjoy both the old and modern America. Nick began the presentations. Guests would watch a master confectioner at a nearby traditional sweet shop make sweets in front of them. The welcome drink would be premium tea in a bottle. Nick's plan was certainly attractive. After his presentation, Nick called on us to present in the order we were seated. Just as I stood up for my turn. "All right, everyone's presentations are done." "Excuse me, I haven't. I recently found out something." Nick interrupted me. "There's someone in this department who didn't graduate high school and is just a part-timer." He was likely talking about me. I joined the company as a part-timer and was made a full-time employee when I turned 20. That was 20 years ago, so Nick and Mike probably had no chance to know until recently. Meetings should be for employees only. Absolutely right. After that, Nick kept creating opportunities to solicit everyone's opinions, purposefully excluding me from speaking. The meeting unexpectedly heated up and went past the scheduled end time. A few people asked to leave, and the discussion continued with the remaining few. "Still here?" Normally, you'd leave in that situation. Though I had no attachment to the job initially, hearing kind words from customers made me want to make them happier. For someone like me, with nowhere to go, the inn was my home and customer service was my life. I felt pathetic about my current self. "I'm leaving." I left the conference room and started shutting down my computer. I noticed an email had arrived, not in my personal inbox, but in the company's shared email. Thinking no one would listen to what I had to say anyway, I quietly went home. The next day, while preparing the DM as instructed, I heard a commotion from Nick's desk. In his haste to stand up, he hit his knee on the desk. He stared at his computer screen, his face pale. "Nick? What's wrong?" Mike, thinking he should be the first to rush over, approached Nick while still wearing his coat. He peered at the screen with Nick. And he turned even paler than Nick. Why is he so angry? Who is responsible for this company? Nick, more irritated than ever, asked, and Mike answered without checking. "Probably Sam." Sam wasn't there because he was attending a morning training session for new hires. Nick gave up on getting angry and returned his gaze to the screen. They were looking at an email that arrived right after the end of the working day yesterday. Apparently, no one, including me, had checked it before leaving. The email was from a large company that used us for their annual employee trips. The president and executives of that company also frequently used our services personally. President of the company, Mr. Mason himself, had declared that neither he nor his company would ever use our services again. Well, some companies cancel their employee trips or stop using our services due to financial struggles. Let's just move on. Mike kept wiping the sweat from his forehead with a handkerchief. Knowing why Mike was so agitated, I quietly watched their interaction. "Do you know how much revenue we get from that company?" "We can find other guests to fill the rooms, but we'll lose the banquet costs. Gift shop revenue, rental car fees, and more. Moreover, the gifts were supposed to be prepared by the traditional confectionery shop involved in Nick's proposed plan. If it's known that we incurred such a huge loss at this critical time, Nick's position in the company would be jeopardized." Nick took a deep breath, seemingly trying to calm himself. "All right, Mike. Go to New York right now and apologize to Mr. Mason." "What? You're coming with me, right? I have urgent work to do." "I trust you, which is why I'm entrusting this to you." "Please." Mike, believing Nick's sincerity, agreed with a determined look on his face, saying, "Yes. That's Nick for you." Even if Mike went to apologize, Nick would shift all the blame onto him if the client didn't change their mind. Well, it was Mike's fault to begin with, so it served him right. About 3 hours later, Sam answered a call from somewhere and repeatedly apologized, saying, "I'm very sorry." Everyone watched to see what was happening. After ending the call, he informed Nick with a weary tone. When Mike arrived at the client's company, he only made things worse, further infuriating Mr. Mason. He was demanding, "Get his boss here immediately." It was no wonder Sam was exhausted, dealing with such a call right after returning from training. What is that idiot doing? Alright, Adam, you're coming with me. If sacrificing Mike didn't work, then I must be next. Normally, I'd want to refuse at all costs, but I saw an opportunity in this situation. If I can be of assistance, I'd be happy to join you. I immediately followed Nick, and we flew to New York. When we introduced ourselves at the reception, it became clear how serious the situation was, as the receptionist personally escorted us to the president's office. Angry voices leaked through the door, making both Nick and me uneasy. Excuse me. I'm Nick, the supervisor. I understand my subordinate has caused you trouble, and I deeply apologize. Nick, with his experience in the corporate world, knew enough to offer an apology before excuses. However, his customer service skills left much to be desired. I sighed as I saw Mike trembling like a small dog in the corner of the room. What kind of training are you giving your subordinates? Mr. Mason glared at Nick with a red face. The intensity of his gaze made even Nick take a step back. Regrettably, I joined this company only 2 years ago and was unaware of Mike's issues. I should have identified his shortcomings sooner. Indeed. I should have realized sooner. No sensible person would come to apologize and then give a lengthy presentation on the drawbacks of not using their in. Nick froze, his mouth slightly open. Suspecting the worst, I picked up the documents that had fallen to the floor. It seemed Mike hastily prepared these documents on the plane, listing the disadvantages. Disadvantage 1: if you change the venue for the company trip, employees might suspect it's for cost-cutting reasons, leading to a negative impression. Reading it aloud half-jokingly, Nick snatched the papers from my hand and checked the contents with a furious expression. Among the stack of documents was a receipt from a nearby convenience store's copy machine. I felt a pang of dread, hoping he hadn't shown the receipt as well. What do you think he said when I asked what kind of nerve he had to do this? I'm very sorry. Faced with the dire situation, Nick must have thought there was nothing left to do but apologize. In a voice smaller than I'd ever heard from him, he uttered words of apology. He said, "I'm a Harvard graduate. I don't believe I said anything wrong." Mike! What have you done? Forgetting his plan to pin the blame on Mike, Nick yelled loudly, even in front of Mr. Mason. I didn't do anything wrong. You're still saying that? Look at him. Mike pointed at me with a shaking hand. I was assigned to headquarters in my 20s and now I'm a section chief. This guy only made it to headquarters at 42. Everything I've done proves I was right. So why are we losing the contract? Having said his piece, Mike collapsed to the floor. Of course. You were sent there because you had nowhere else to go. Mike never expected to hear such words from someone he looked down upon. He lunged at me, and Nick hurriedly stepped in to stop him. Mr. Thompson told me Mike is a quick thinker, and to take good care of him. There's no way he was pushed aside. Don't make things worse here. He didn't say quick thinker, he said only quick-witted, didn't he? I don't remember that part. I recalled the many troubles Mike caused when he was a newbie. When Mike was on the front line, his pride was so high that he never apologized to customers. Customer service, especially in our job, doesn't work alone. It brings both good and bad situations. If the front staff or housekeepers made mistakes, or the cleaning company didn't properly clean a room, one had to apologize to the customers regardless of personal fault. Mike, in such situations, would never apologize, insisting he wasn't at fault. This often angered customers, and as the front desk leader, I frequently had to apologize on his behalf. He caused complaints and disrupted operations, which is why he was quickly moved to headquarters. In departments where he didn't interact directly with customers, his quick thinking was beneficial and things went well. But it seemed his flaws were starting to show. Corporate reservations are supposed to be entered into the system by the sales representative. But a quick check yesterday revealed that more than 10 items were missing from the client's reservation. The handover document clearly stated what needed to be prepared. Why didn't you enter it into the system? Why do we have to give them special treatment? Filling rooms near the banquet hall, setting up all the food in advance. Specifying the brand of wine, they're too demanding. No wonder he always angered customers, I thought, feeling a headache coming on. Grouping them in rooms near the banquet hall is for our benefit too. It makes it easier for the staff to set up beds and serve breakfast since everyone's schedule is synchronized. As for the other requests, Mr. Mason suggested them to lighten our load. I didn't know that. Nick finally seemed to realize that Mike was the one who had angered the client. What did you say to them? I just told them we wouldn't give them special treatment anymore. We shouldn't waste effort on things that don't bring in money. I was utterly exasperated at his lack of understanding of customer service. Of course, we shouldn't comply with unreasonable demands. But carrying over successful practices from past stays makes customers feel remembered and enhances their experience. Good memories encourage repeat visits. That's part of our job. I looked down at Mike, who was sitting on the floor. In our job, nothing is a waste. Mr. Thompson likely moved you to the sales department, hoping you'd finally understand this. How do you think he feels now that you've failed to meet his expectations? Mike, tears in his eyes, fled the president's office. I was amazed he still hadn't apologized. You have it tough, Adam. It's okay, we're all employees of the same company. I deeply apologize for this disrespectful incident. Especially after all the care you've shown us. If it weren't for you, Adam, I really would have stopped staying here. When I heard you were moving to the sales department, I was willing to reconsider if you handled it. Seeing us talk so amicably, Nick's face contorted. Do you two know each other? Adam's service is excellent. I always requested him specifically. Normally, we don't accept specific staff requests, but we made an exception for Mr. Mason, adjusting my shifts accordingly. He had personally stayed at our hotel just before my transfer, and during casual conversation, I mentioned, I'm moving to the sales department soon. If I hadn't told him then, things could have been much worse. Please continue to take care of us. I look forward to it. On the return flight, Nick awkwardly offered me a can of beer. It's still working hours. Of course, I had no intention of forgiving him for a single beer. Nick might try to pin everything on Mike and avoid any consequences. While pondering this, a startling fact came to light. Nick, the tea bottles for the plan have arrived. I handed Nick a bottle labeled with our inn's name. They look good. What are you talking about? These are plastic bottles. I had assumed we would use the trendy, high-end bottling tea. But what arrived were ordinary plastic bottles of tea with customized labels. The only unique aspect was the label, which had the inn's name, making it look customized. Upon further investigation, I discovered that a substantial amount of money was set to be paid to the tea company. It was priced like bottling tea. Does this plastic bottle really cost $100 each? The tea inside is specially blended for us. The extra cost is for that. Wouldn't it be better to use another tea company? Or is there a specific reason we must use this one? As Nick continued to make excuses, I showed him a printed email. I informed the tea company's president, Mr. Mitchell, that we discovered irregular payments and he confessed. He said you two were high school classmates and planned to split the extra money. That idiot. Why did he confess? That's not important. You should worry about yourself, this could turn into a police matter. Opening the bottle cap, I suggested. How about calming down with this tea? It supposedly has a relaxing effect. Nick drank the tea frantically. In the following days, decisions were made about their fates. Mike was reassigned to the General Affairs Department, with no chance of transfer or promotion, as per Mr. Thompson's orders. As for Nick, since the payment to the tea company hadn't yet been made, he narrowly avoided legal trouble. Instead, he was encouraged to leave the company, and to avoid further complications, Nick submitted his resignation. Rumor has it that connections between HR departments have made it difficult for him to find new employment. Even though it was good to have those two gone, something unexpected happened in the sales department. Everyone became motivated and united in refining the 50th anniversary plan. In the end, my plan was adopted. We collaborated with the Tourist Information Center to provide personalized guides. The plan, tailored to the number of guests, was truly special for the 50th anniversary. Hey, is Adam's family coming to stay? I immediately booked that special plan for my family. Sam noticed it on the reservation list and quickly picked up on it. Yes, I'm inviting my father. That's great. I might invite my parents too. I lacked the courage to face my father just as Adam. But here, with the confidence Mr. Mason praised, I felt ready. The 50th anniversary plan was a perfect opportunity to reconnect with my father. I hoped to bring back the days when we could laugh together as we once did.